there's a big wide opening here for a question, and that is, tell me about your designation, right? I'm not sure everyone understands that.
Okay. There are multiple designations. There's multiple certifications across the country, across North America for professional staging training. I feel blessed to have fallen under the CSP staging training program. It was one of the first and early programs in the market, and they are the first to create this luxury staging specialist designation. So found it a huge honor and a huge compliment to be awarded the designation. And I found it's really allowed me to step into some different properties, some different spaces, some different opportunities, and definitely given us a level of expertise and professionalism.
Great. And so are you ever found independent of an agent, or is your networking mostly with agents?
Agents are definitely a key source of leads for us, but it works in a reciprocal arrangement as well. So if sellers are thinking about selling their home, they have not yet decided on a realtor, they just want to think about what kind of preparations they need to do first, oftentimes they will reach out to us and find us, and then we have the pleasure of being able to recommend some of our top realtors for them. So we do bring quite a bit of business to our top realtors.
That's great. Kofi, you work with professional stagers. How does that relationship work for you?
Great. It's a great relationship to have. Like I said, it's an extension of our team. And if you can establish rapport with the stagers as well, they also get to know how you like to work. And I think it's an early conversation to have with assessing a property and figuring out who the target audience is for that property. We talk about it in the Institute training with photographers of telling them who the target market is so they can capture the property in that way. It's the same thing with staging as well, where we can say, this is probably gonna appeal to a family, or in this neighborhood, people work from home, so we need a nook where they can do their work, right? So we're on the same page in terms of the angle or even accents for the staging to appeal to that broader audience of buyers that we think is gonna sell to.
So when you're actually performing the act of staging, you've already gone through Lori and said, here's the target, right? Can you talk about that?
We do some research together with the realtors and also on our own as to who the target market likely is culturally, socially, locally. Are they local? Are they international? And we need to know all of those factors because it does influence our design choices, some of the materials or the decor or even artwork that we would bring in. In certain areas, we don't want to offend anybody, so everything is very neutral and very abstract. Yet in some areas, for instance, if you have a funky loft in a very artistic neighborhood, you need to bring something a little bit saucy or a little bit provocative or a little bit memorable to relate to that person who's going to bite down on the house.
So I think we've established that there's absolutely a need to stage, okay? And, Kofi, in our discussions about this, you talk about reverse engineering and how that plays a role in what's happening in the market today. You want to talk about that a little?
Yeah, you start with identifying who that buyer is, and then you reverse engineer how you're going to reach that buyer. Right. So you look at how do you create an environment in the home with the stager that you're working with that someone walks in and sees themselves living there. And so that's something that it involves the conversations, it involves the research, it involves understanding that specific marketplace and then getting it dialed in. It made me think about some of the developers we work with. We work with developers as well. And when they're bringing a new product to market, whether it's a luxury condo building or rentals, that's one of the first things that they do is they get very specific in identifying the buyers. They'll say, this is Tom. Tom is 37. He works at a startup. He sold his car 2 years ago and now just uses Uber and Lyft and has a scooter. He eats fresh greens. And so you have this really target demographic.
Very clear.
Very, very clear, right? And it makes your job easier too in identifying how you're going to stage the property.
So Lori talked a bit about the perfect situation where in an ideal world, the seller has found their dream home and suddenly you're the expert, right? There's no convincing needed. What about the situation where a house has been sitting and, you know, the idea that a house sells in 3 days and all of that. And once somebody's friend tells them that their house sold in 3 days, they want to know why theirs hasn't. What are in both of your minds? Because you're going to see things differently and probably come together. But what in your mind is the single reason why a home sits in a good neighborhood, in a good house? Why is it not selling?
I think it's all about the feeling. I think you have to create the opportunity for that rush, that emotional connection, that wow.
I agree with that. I think, you know, we look at sort of this mental checklist of things that, you know, contribute to the sale of a property. The condition of the property, the marketing, price being a huge factor, the staging, excuse me. And if any of these things are missing, you know, that's where we try to start and check a box that has not been checked and trying to assess why a property isn't moving, why it's not selling. And normally we get a lot of feedback, you know, the early either pre-marketing launch or we bring agents in to help us, you know, assess the property. We get common threads of feedback that can help us adjust prior to hitting the market. So it can be everything from, oh, this show's a little tired, or it looks like there's deferred maintenance, or it's a little bland, or, oh God, there's too many colors, you know, just things like that that can help us shift.
Let's also talk about possibly the idea or the situation where it could be vacant. A lot of people think, you know, oh, it's right on the beach, or it's got a beautiful view and it's spacious. We can leave it empty. People will see that. That's a missed opportunity to get people to emotionally connect, for sure. Nobody really feels anything when they walk into an empty white box of a space.